up, everybody? Welcome in. Here we are, episode number 2 of the Sunday Show with Jeff and my co-host Jarrett. So excited to be with you today. It's going to be a great day, a great show we have planned for you. I'm looking forward to it. I'm so glad that you're tuned in, checking out what's going to happen. I'm always joined by my favorite co-host, our favorite intern, Jarrett Slusher. Whoa! Oh no, I killed Jarrett. Hey, you okay, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
You sure about that?
I'm doing all right.
All right. Anyway, I'm gonna slide you down a little bit right there, just so we don't go knocking you off again. Hate for you to get hurt or something like that, right? So anyway, tell us how you been.
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. Had a nice little drive on the way over here, and I'm feeling a little bit stiff, but I think that's something that'll work itself out eventually.
Yeah, good. I bet you are a little stiff, a little sore today, especially after that trip. Anyway, you notice Jarrett is modeling his guitar today. He's doing that specifically to promote his band's newest release. And so Jarrett is part of a band, City and Forest. So they have a new song out. So Jarrett, tell us a little bit about the song and where the people can find it to hear it.
And yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I'm in a band called City and Forest, and we just released our song, It's About Time. And you can find it pretty much anywhere, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, wherever there's a music streaming source, you can find it, listen to it.
That's great, man. So excited for you, for Jason, for City and Forest, and for new tunes out on any music streaming platform you would like to get that. Go check that out and support Jarrett and Jason and City and Forest. Last week we introduced this show, the Sunday Show, and as we talked about, each week we're going to be talking about different topics, different subjects. And this week we're going to be talking about youth ministry. We're going to be talking about youth group. We're going to be talking about the advantages of being involved in a youth group, and not just being a part of it, but actually belonging to a youth group and the family, that atmosphere that we want to create in a youth group. And so you'll also be encouraged through being a part of youth ministry as we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, and so we're looking forward to that conversation. I'm happy this week to be joined by youth ministry expert and former youth pastor here at Christ Baptist Church, Mr. Andy Duke. He is going to be with us in a little while. He and I were able to chat this past week on Zoom, and so it was great to catch up with him, to ask him some questions about youth ministry and hear his response and his encouragement. So you'll want to tune in for that, and you don't want to miss that. He's always full of wisdom and encouragement, and so I'm excited for you to hear from him. And I know he was excited to be able to share a little bit with you, even if it is over a video. But I think you'll be blessed by it and through it. Jarrett, you were a part of Andy's youth group for a number of years, right? So share with us your favorite memory, a favorite story, or something that you remember from being in the youth group as with Andy as your youth pastor.
Oh man, one of my favorite moments from Andy, gosh, there's so many. I would say one of my favorites is when we went to Big Creek Missions in Kentucky. And I think it was like the last day or second to last day, and Andy was tired and was just laying on his bunk. And me and the rest of the guys, so there are like 8 of us total, got on Andy's bunk and broke his bed. Just, to show love and respect to someone who has poured a lot of time and energy in us. We thought we would pour the same amount of energy on him and his fragile wooden bunk. So
That's great, man. It's always good to break something at camp. Seems like something's always getting broken, and so it's tough when it's a bed or a window, right? But better that than an arm or a leg. And so, hey, fun times and a story you still remember all these years later. So you stay tuned, because in a moment you're going to want to hear from Andy. But before we get to Andy, before we get to that conversation, we have a few segments coming up. So in just a moment, Jarrett and I will cut away, and you'll get to see videos of a few things. Number one, Our favorite youth group volunteer, one of our favorite, maybe our favorite, Mr. Mike Ramo is going to be in the house in just a moment. I bet you didn't know this, Jared. You may not have known this about Mike, but Mike used to be involved in competitive eating. That's exactly right. He grew up on Long Island watching the 4th of July Nathan's hot dog eating contest all those years and always dreamed of one day competing in that. So he's been a bit out of shape in the competitive eating world, but we're gonna push him right back into it. And so we're going to be attempting to watch Mike break some world record eating records. Right? So he's going to be trying to break some world records for eating, competitive eating. And so today you're going to see his first attempt at that in just a moment. This is our first shot. I don't know if this is going to be a good segment or a bad one. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm just saying. So you watch this and then you can give me some feedback and let me know what you think about Eating with Mike. So stay tuned for that. Following Eating with Mike, you're going to see us, we're going to join in a song together, "Oh Come to the Altar." And so I want to challenge you to lean in during this time. This is a good song, "Oh Come to the Altar." The bridge is a wonderful declaration. Oh, what a Savior. Isn't he wonderful? Sing hallelujah. Jesus is risen. And so we're going to declare that together. And I really want to challenge you to lean into this time. Don't check out while the song goes on and what happens, but really lean in and worship in spirit and in truth. Not just lyrics, but a song that really speaks to our hearts and that allows us to worship King Jesus for who he is. And the song says Jesus is calling. So he's calling you to worship him. And I pray that you will do that through song with your family, maybe just yourself in your computer screen. Maybe you got some friends around and y'all are gathered together and watching this video now. Engage in this time, right? Really lean in, really seek to honor and worship King Jesus because he's worthy of it, right? So you'll see Mike trying to break a world record. You'll get to sing and worship to King Jesus. Followed by that, there's going to be a few videos. I asked some students earlier this week to record a short video just talking about what you love about youth group, what you enjoy about youth group, some of your favorite things about being a part of youth group. And so I'm going to share some of those videos today. I want to keep sharing these videos as the weeks go by. Why do you love youth group? And so if you want to record yourself making a video, and you'll see how it goes, making a video talking about what you love about youth group that you would love to share, I want you to be involved in this video. And so make a video, get it to me. I'll get it in the video each week, and we'll love to just let you encourage your fellow youth group partners in that. And so followed by that video, following those videos, you're going to see the discussion that Andy and I had as we talked about youth ministry. And so I know that that's going to be a fun time, a fun conversation, and I hope you enjoy that conversation between Andy and I. After that, Jarrett and I will be right back right here to wrap up today's Sunday show. So thanks for being involved today, for tuning in, and so I hope you enjoy the show. All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome in here with our good buddy, Mr. Mike Ramo. What's up, my man?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Welcome into the Sunday show. We got a new segment started tonight. Many of you may not have known this, but Mike used to be a professional competitive eater, right?
Yeah. I used to go to restaurants and I would try their eating challenges. I ate a 76-ounce steak. I ate 10 wings that made me cry. I almost ate 7 pounds of barbecue. That one got the best of me. But I just like to do competitive eating.
Awesome. Well, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a number of tests, challenges, if you will, over the next few months for Mike to try to get back in the competitive eating spirit and shape. Right?
Yep.
And so tonight we're starting with peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Are you ready for this?
I was born ready for this.
So the Guinness World Record for the most peanut butter and jelly sandwiches eaten within 1 minute is how many? Do you know?
It's 6.
It's 6. That's exactly right. So tonight Mike is going for 7. We have 7 PB&J sandwiches ready for Mike to devour. All right. And if he gets it done within 60 seconds, we're sending it to Guinness.
There we go.
I don't know if you can do that with a video or not.
I don't know either,
but we're gonna try, right?
Yeah.
So the number is 7, 60 seconds. He's gonna knock it dead, right?
That's right.
Let's go.
As you guys can see, I got 7 sandwiches here, and I got 2 bottles of water here so I don't choke, and I got 60 seconds to clean these plates. So I'm gonna say 3, 2, 1, go.
tried. We didn't try. Mike tried. That was a valiant effort, my man.
Yeah.
Valiant. You were going so well. You were going
I know,
so
and
well.
then just real life sets in. Don't you hate when that happens?
Right, yeah. Hey, but the good news is I don't think he's done. Are you done?
No, I'm not done.
No,
I'm still eating.
He's finishing up his peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I think we may give it a go at another food in another month or so.
That's right. You know what? This is what I want to do. I want you guys to tell me what you want me to eat next. I'm going to give this, this is your segment. You guys are going to have the power. So in the comments section, let me know what you guys want me to eat next month. And until then, I'm going to just finish my sandwiches.
All right, man. Good job. Good job.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and I'm in 9th grade. Mental health has been a huge struggle for me over the last few years, and I tend a lot towards negativity. Youth group is a great way to break through your negativity, and it's a great place to make new friends. You get a nice sense of community, people are friendly, they care, People are there for you. It's also a great place to serve your community and others. For example, at Fuge, the Fuge camps, that's a summer camp that we occasionally do that we started a couple of years ago. I've only been able to go once because of quarantine, but we actually went out and served in the Appalachian Mountains around Bridgecrest Conference Center, and it was a great experience. Above all with youth group, though, free food. Actually, just kidding. It's a great place to worship God and grow as a person. I'll tell you again, from the Fuge camp that I was just talking about, that's where I became a Christian, and it was quite an experience. You learn a lot. You learn a lot about yourself.
I love youth group. The first reason I love youth group is the way the Bible's presented. The way the Bible's presented, I learn something new almost every week. Or I learn something already new and just found a new way to apply it to my life. The second thing I love about youth group is the great leaders that we have. The leaders that we have will help us whenever we need something. Or even if we don't need something and we just need someone to talk to. The third thing is I love the great friendships that you develop over your time in youth group. The friendships that I have developed are some of the strongest friendships I have ever had. And hopefully I will ever have. And the fourth thing I love about youth group is when we get to go on trips like Infuge and we get to reach out to people who may not know who Jesus is and we get to tell them about him.
Hey guys, I just wanted to hop on here and tell you guys a couple of things that I really enjoyed during my time in youth group. The first thing is seeing the sense of community that everyone had in the youth group. It's just so amazing for me to see young kids have such good friends and just have so much fun together and be able to share different things with one another. That was so amazing to me to see, and I hope that that continues with you guys. The second thing was I really enjoyed going on the youth trips that Jeff would plan. If there's another Infuge trip, go, because it's so good and so fun. And yeah, I hope this new season of y'all's life will be great and that youth group will be so much fun for you guys.
I feel like the biggest thing that I probably value from youth group is just fellowship with other people and interaction, because these are other people who are young like you and who are growing in Christ, and they can share experiences or share wisdom of things that they've been going through, and you could also do the same of like giving others advice. It's something I like to do. I like just to listen to my friends about their week and give advice when necessary. I love youth group because of the fellowship and the interaction with people and the chance to help others grow. That is probably the biggest reason I love youth group. There's probably a bunch of other tiny reasons, but that is probably the biggest thing. Oh, I forgot. The events. Oh my gosh. I bet the biggest reason I love events is because just the interaction and the fellowship time. That's why I love youth group. If I were to put it in one sentence, fellowship, interactions, and the ability and chances to help others grow.
Okay, so here we are with the one and only Andy Duke, man, from Colorado, right? It's good to see you, buddy. Thanks for taking the time to just chat with us today. You're going to be talking to dozens of viewers, so I hope you're ready for that pressure.
I'm going to try my best, man.
Yeah. But this week, we're going to be talking about youth group, man. Why is it important? What makes it special? What are some benefits of it? And so happy to hear your perspective on that as a former youth pastor, long-term, right? Many years into that. And so I'm sure the folks will be happy to hear your words and hear you speak into teenagers' life still. So I know that'll be a benefit to our people. So thanks a lot for coming along.
Thanks for inviting me. It's great.
But before we get into that, man, if you just take a half a minute or a minute or two and just kind of let everybody know how the church plant's doing, what's it look like moving into, especially as you mentioned, wintertime, and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, as you can imagine, winter, it gets pretty brutal out here at times. We get a fair amount of snow. And so we've been meeting in a park for about 2 months now, and which has been a huge blessing, that God's allowed us to just favor with our rec center to meet in the park these times. And this past Sunday, we were able to meet all together in one worship gathering for the first time, which is pretty awesome. Great spirit. And but now we got to start looking towards winter, and so we're looking at some different options, maybe meeting at a coffee shop on Sunday evenings for the winter. And like everybody else, we're just taking it a week at a time. That's kind of where we are. But it's really cool, dude. I mean, in the park, we've had some walk-ups from people that were not a part of our church and never have been, but just saw us week in and week out in the park that we've been able to reach. And so, yeah, a lot of exciting things are happening even in the midst of all the uncertainty.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I mean, as we think about youth ministry, why does it matter? I think the first important question is, have you seen Hamilton at all? Did you see that?
I have watched Hamilton.
All right, man.
Yeah.
So that is, well, it depends which youth group chat you're involved in with our group. Hamilton draws a strict, what's the word?
Strong emotions.
Strong emotions, right? So, so I think the pro Hamilton crowd will be happy to have your endorsement.
Yes, I am a pro Hamilton.
There we go.
Person. There's obviously typical Broadway things that I wouldn't approve of in it, but to me, it's just seriously impressive. The lyrics and the music of it is pretty cool.
Sure. Anyway, so all right, enough of that silly stuff. So I just want to get your thoughts, and we can just have a dialogue about these things. So first of all, just as you think over the course of serving in youth ministry and having even now a teenager in your house, what are some of the greatest benefits do you see from a youth ministry, from a youth group? What are some things that you noticed over the years that are just, primary and beneficial for teenagers?
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. Ethan is some of you guys remember Ethan, my son. He starts high school next week. It's crazy. No. He was 4 years old, I think, when we came to Christ Baptist. So it's kind of crazy to think about that. But
wow.
Yes, to me, the benefits, there are several. Why I think youth ministry is important and why we should give it some emphasis in our churches. One is the fact that it's another voice to reinforce God's truth from His Word. That maybe teenagers are pretty typically struggle with listening to their parents. They're beginning that process, so like Genesis 1 talks about, of leaving and eventually getting married. The cleaving part will come later.
Yeah.
But they're in this process of sort of developing independence, and so they sort of question everything their parents say. And so to have a voice in a youth pastor or in a small group leader and a Sunday school teacher or just a volunteer that's reinforcing God's truth, the parents are primarily responsible for reinforcing, I think has always been a pro. We always used to joke about, parents would come up to me and I'd say something and the student thinks it's the greatest thing in the world, and the parent would be like, I've been saying that for months now, and they won't listen to me. So that's one pro to youth ministry. I think the other aspect is the social aspect. I think we should all be living on mission. Like, we should all have friends who are lost, who don't know Jesus, who are trying to draw, be used of God to draw them to faith. But at the same time, I think the bulk of our friendships, especially when we're in those impressionable years in middle school and high school, the bulk of our friends need to be believers. They need people that are positive influences on us. Yeah. And I think that youth group provides that in a really, really positive way. So that's two things I think of for sure.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And I love that idea of just having other voices speaking into, and for me now, I have a teenager too, so speaking into his life, that he just doesn't hear me. My kids have started watching the Peanut movie on Disney Plus recently. So you hear Charlie Brown's teacher, and that's womp womp. And so that's what I think that's what I sound like to my kid, but then even to our students, right? Like I come across as their pastor, and so bringing somebody in to say the same things that I've said is beneficial, because they hear that, like you said, and they're like, oh, he told us we should read our Bible, and I've been saying that forever. So
revolutionary idea.
It would change the world now. So yeah, man, I love that. And I mean, just as you talk about the social aspect, I think we have a number of students who would vouch for the fact that we've been out of youth groups since March. And so, man, those are good. Thanks for sharing that. Shifting gears now, what do you think of, so when you think about youth group, when you think about youth ministry, what are some things you've seen in teenagers? What are some attitudes, some characteristics you've seen that are, if you use this word cancerous to youth group, right? What's a good way to blow up a youth group or destroy it? And I don't mean blow up in a good way, right? But like, have you seen that
Sure.
or seen those things
Sure,
that you had to nip in the bud or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully we didn't deal with this a ton when I was youth pastor at Christ Baptist, but it did crop up on occasion. But I think when students begin to form into cliques that are exclusive, of course you're going to be close. I mean, it's just natural. You're going to be closer with some people than other people. Even Jesus was, right? I mean, he had John,
Right.
and then he had James and Peter, and that sort of thing. And so I get that, like, you're going to be closer naturally, or even even in the spirit, you're going to be closer with certain people than
Right.
others. But the truth is, when that becomes an exclusive thing where you're leaving people out, whether intentionally or unintentionally, I think most of the time it's unintentional.
Sure.
That can be really cancerous to the group. I used to give the illustration that I think the kids that were in youth group when I was a youth pastor there probably got sick of me giving this illustration, but I said, if every student comes to youth group thinking, how can I be loved? How can I get attention? How can I, get what I want out of this experience? Then people are going to be left out because everybody's
Right.
looking out for themselves. But if
Yeah.
every person comes to youth group saying, how can I give attention? How can I give love? How can I serve other people? Then nobody's going to be left out. And so I just try to, just reinforce that over and over again. And it's not just a youth group thing. It's a
Sure.
people thing,
Right.
So, so I just say, try to keep away from sort of exclusive groups and do your best to reach out to other people, especially when they're not like you.
Right. Yeah. And it's amazing how that becomes such, and I don't mean this negatively, but it becomes a natural thing because we gravitate towards people that are like us. And so,
Sure.
I'll talk to some teenagers and be like, hey, do you realize what's going on? And they're like, well, no, I don't
Right.
realize that. And so,
Well, and I think it's the difference between, natural and supernatural, or natural and spiritual.
right.
So, if we walk in the flesh, then we're going to do what the rest of the world does. And that's exactly what you're saying. Whereas if we have the attitude of Christ, I think of Philippians 2, considering others more important than ourselves. If really Christ's in us, then we need to have that attitude. And that's
Yeah.
the solution.
Yeah. And I wonder, I know this wasn't one of the things I sent you to think about, but so just, on a whim, what do you think in the difference of, you may hear these words and think that's stupid. That's fine too. But like this idea of being a part of something and then belonging to something, and the distinction between those two things. And so somebody that comes and is a part of the Christ Baptist Youth Group or whatever fill in the blank church, sure, they're a part of it, but a distinction and a difference into actually belonging to that and feeling like you belong a part of that. You see a difference in that? And
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a youth that comes, once a month can feel like that, if they said, somebody comes up to them and says, hey, you do a youth group or do you go to church? Well, I go to Christ Baptist Youth Group. They feel like they can say that with honesty, and they can. But there's it's a totally different thing from showing up once a month or, twice a semester or whatever, and then being there consistently. And the word I want to use here is committed. And again, we always used family language, and there's a lot of different ways to run a youth group. And I know you feel the same way that I do about this, that the youth, the church, and as a subset, the youth group is a part of my family. And in fact, a more true sense than biologically that can be true, because we have Christ, we have the Holy Spirit as the factor that unifies us and brings us together. And so, praise God for godly families that raise their kids, in the Lord. But there's a lot of kids that never have that and never will have that.
right.
And I think the church, I don't think Jesus says that his family are those who do the will of the Father. It's the church that becomes that spiritual family. And so I'd say you can't have that if you're just popping in once a month or a couple times a semester, and I tell you, it really is, just real quickly, that's a reciprocal thing. It's not just you giving, of your time to be committed to the group like a family, but you get from it too, right? I mean,
Right.
you get the love and the encouragement and the affirmation and the fun and all that stuff. So
Sure. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, thinking through, here we are moving into the fall. So we have a new group of new recruits, right? New fresh class coming in as 7th graders moving into the youth group. So, put on your pastoral hat, as pastor now or as youth pastor, what would be your encouragement to, a new 7th grade teenager as he or she is preparing to enter into youth group for the next 5 years or 6 years?
Yeah, I mean, I feel a little bit bad. I keep leaning on all these trite phrases that I just repeated over and over the years. But, after a while, I think certain things just sort of become universal truths, and I think one of those things is, hey, you're not a kid anymore.
Right.
I'm not, and as your youth pastor, I would not have treated you like a kid, and I wouldn't have expected you to act like a kid. Now, I don't want to take that too far. It doesn't mean, as we used to say, when we play hard, and when we work hard. And
Right.
So, I want to be out there, on the field, sweating and getting muddy and having a blast and laughing, pulling pranks on people just as much. That's not a kid thing. That's just a fun human thing, right?
Right.
But when it comes to the moments where we need to focus in on God's word, and whether that's in your Sunday school class or, some kind of breakout small group, or listen to a message from Jeff or somebody else, or it's the worship time when you're literally trying to interact with God through your song, like, take that seriously. So be serious when it's time to be serious, and then have fun and play when it's time to have fun and play. And that kind of balance is really magical in a youth group, if especially these new students begin to grasp that early on. I just encourage you, like, in some sense, begin that process of growing up, because in another sense, that's the youth ministry. That's one of their roles. One of its roles is to help you grow from being a child, which you were last year, to become an adult, which you will be by the time you graduate.
Yeah.
And so just go ahead and embrace that reality and grow up and commit to being serious when it's time to be serious, and having fun and playing when it's time to have fun and play.
Right. Yeah. Good words. Good words. And just kind of to wrap up this time as we think about this last thing, and we'll see where it goes. Maybe it takes us down a rabbit trail for a long time. Who knows? But here's, let me set this up for you. We've been apart. We haven't met since March 7th. That was the last time we were here in this room, actually, on Sunday night. And so we're hoping that, we'll be back together soon. And it's going to look different, right? It's not going to be the same back together. But I wonder, like, how would you encourage the young men and young women that'll watch this video that are thinking, should I, like, I've been out of there for 5-6 months. Is it going to matter if I go back? Or maybe the things of this world, if you will, that have kind of drawn them away the last 4 or 5 months. And so they're really struggling with, is there even a point? Like, how would you encourage, number one, to come back, but then also what would you say to them as how they should, and I think you probably covered some of this, but how would you encourage somebody to jump in with both feet, if you will, as they come back?
Yeah. I mean, really the question that comes to our mind is, or comes to my mind is, has God given in the church something that no other environment or situation can replace? And so that maybe that sounds really complicated, but here's what I mean. Like, if you're on a football team, it's not going to train you to play baseball.
Right.
If you're on a dance team, that's not going to train you to be really good at video games. Just as a silly illustration, like, school is going to do a really good job, hopefully, especially in Raleigh. There's some great schools that you guys go to. They're gonna train you for the academic world and the career field eventually that God's going to call you into. So the school it's a sphere that God has ordained. Government is a sphere that God's ordained. Family is a sphere that God's ordained. And so what I'm arguing, and what the Bible says, is that the church also is a sphere that none of those other areas of our life can can fulfill the purposes for which God has created the church. And I know I get myself into some trouble here, but I know the leadership of Christ Baptist agrees with me on this. I mean, the word in the Bible, church, means gathering.
Right.
It means to assemble, to get together. And so, you know, and I get it. Like some people like can't get together right now by like help from a health standpoint. They shouldn't. Totally have respect for that. I understand it. But for those of us who can, let's not pretend like watching a message online is church, because it's really not. Now Zoom meeting might be, because we're talking and fellowship and stuff like that. But let's not pretend like just watching a presentation is church, because it's not. And my point is that gathering together gives us something. It offers us something, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, but most of all spiritually, that no other environment, no other context can. And so I would argue you need church, whether you realize it or not. You need it. You need your youth group. You need peers spiritually to thrive, and not just to thrive, but even to survive. And so I really would strongly encourage you, as soon as it's possible and wise and good, to return to every aspect of body life, church life that you possibly can.
Right. Well, good. Well, that's perfect, man. Thanks for sharing those words. Thanks for being willing to take time. Just one last question, man. What's the biggest thing, if you can think of it? I don't know. The biggest thing you miss now as, you know, pastor of a church plant than being, you know, youth pastor?
Yeah. I think the authenticity, not that adults are fake, but they definitely are more guarded generally. The authenticity and just the real and rawness of working with students, I miss it every day. I really do.
Yeah.
In fact, I've plugged in as an FCA leader in my son's school for that very reason. It's selfish, because it's like I want to still hang out with students.
All right. That's great. That's great. You know, I was thinking about the other day how, I mean, for 20 years, hundreds of students has come through a ministry that I've been a part of or led. And I mean, out of that, maybe a dozen of them are friends to this day as they've grown up, and we've married some of them, and, you know, watched them have kids and stuff. And like, that's the good part, man, is that these people are friends for life, you know, like, and so, I mean, yeah, I anguish and hate over and lose sleep over the folks that I wasn't able to develop a relationship with. Right. But
sure,
it is sweet when you're able to be one of those voices speaking into a life, and then it turns into a lifelong friendship. So, so man, we love youth group here. We know that you have a heart for it and have served well. And so thank you for being here, for being with us, for speaking to our students one more time. And
absolutely,
man, we'll be praying.
It's really great to speak with you guys today, and with you, Jeff, in particular.
Yeah, cool, man. So we'll be praying for you guys, and can't wait to see y'all again.
Yeah.
Tuning in this week. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Andy. Just full of wisdom, full of insight, full of experience in youth ministry. And I don't know if you picked up on this a lot, but he and I, we see youth ministry very much the same, very similar. And so even not just now here at Christ Baptist, but in the former churches I've been in, involved in youth ministry, that's been my heart. And I think we have a lot in common with the way we think about youth ministry. So hope you're able to pick up on that. Hope you were able to hear some encouraging words in there. And I hope you were able to look forward to a time one day when we can gather back together as a youth group and really begin to stretch ourselves to make up the lost time that we've missed, but gather back together, reform some relationships, but also to stretch ourselves to gather, but then to if you will, scatter, right? To begin to impact the community around us and our mission field around us. So thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. Again, we would love to hear your feedback on this show and then the shows moving forward. Also, one announcement: I sent a video out a few days ago, and you need to be paying attention this week because we have a huge announcement coming, right? A gigantic announcement to make this week that you don't want to miss. And so hope you get the opportunity to hear that announcement and what's coming up for us and for our youth ministry. Jared, any last words? No? He's been really quiet lately. I don't know what's going on. That's really, really weird. He's usually very talkative, and now he's just gone silent. So I don't know what that's about. But anyways, we'll get that worked out before next week. And until then, you have a great week, and we'll see you next time on the Sunday Show.